Akhandam Satchidanandam Avang Manasagocharam Atmanam Akhiladharam Ashraye Bhishta Siddhai. So we are studying the Vedanta Sara, and I believe we were on text number 29. We had done what is the purpose of this study? What is the whole purpose of this exercise, studying Vedanta? This text, which is an introduction to Vedanta, what's the purpose of studying this or the whole of Vedanta? And the point is, he says, removal of the ignorance about our real nature. Swaswarupa Ajnana Nivritti. To remove the ignorance about our real nature. And then what's the point of that? What good is it? Suppose, the first objection would be, I know myself, I know who I am. And Vedanta claims, no, that you do not know really who you are. And we can show you that you're deeply mistaken about yourself. So if you know your real nature, then what would be the use? One objection could be, I know myself, and that does not seem to help me. I still am suffering and I still have so many limitations. So the answer was Ananda Avapti, attainment of bliss, overcoming of sorrow. So that is the purpose. And here it is not mentioned, but in general, the idea of enlightenment leads to liberation from this cycle of birth and death. So this is how most Indian philosophies would see the whole problem of human life. That not only this life, but we are stuck in this situation. We have gone through it many times, and we are destined to go through this many times again, some variation of this kind of life, until we attain liberation. How do we attain liberation? In Advaita Vedanta. All other the philosophies have the same framework, that we are in suffering, and the suffering is not limited to one life. It's been there for many lives, and it will continue unless we do something about it. In the Advaitic perspective, the whole problem is we do not know our real nature, which is actually free. So once we know our real nature, that we are this infinite being awareness, we will realize that we are free, and we will actually be free of suffering and attain fulfillment. So put it briefly, attainment of fulfillment, overcoming of suffering is the goal of Vedanta. And that's the purpose of studying these texts also. The next section is 30. It talks about a guru, a teacher. Why is a teacher important? A teacher is important in all Indian spiritual traditions, but especially in Advaita Vedanta, where, because Advaita Vedanta is a knowledge system. It's a knowledge-based approach. So text is important and the teacher is important, because you're supposed to study this carefully and think about it and clarify, resolve your doubts, and finally get a conviction, clarity, ultimately enlightenment. There, the role of the teacher is vital, especially think of those days, long before there were written texts available. The teacher was the only way you would get an access to this knowledge, because the text was entirely in the teacher's head. So you'd have to go to a teacher and listen. Even today, when these texts are available, it is still highly advisable to listen to it and to study it with somebody who is of the lineage, who has, I don't have to say that you have to go to a person who's enlightened. How would we know? But somebody who is committed to the lineage, who is well versed in this knowledge and can transmit it to you. So a teacher is always important. Beyond this very practical, very logical reason, knowledge system requires text, teacher, therefore teacher is very important. Beyond this, generally in all Indian spiritual traditions, a spiritual teacher, a guru, has a tremendous role as a spiritual mentor, as a guide, as a spiritual protector, as a person who shows the path, who has walked along the path before us and can show us the dangers ahead, how to tackle them, all these things. So a teacher is known as is revered because the teacher is the manifestation of the power of grace. So God is gracious, and the highest form of grace is spirituality, enlightenment, freedom from samsara. That's the highest function of grace. And a manifestation of this power of grace, in Sanskrit, Anugraha Shakti, the power of grace, comes through the teacher. So God's grace operates through the teacher. That's why the teacher is so revered. I think it's Kabir Das who sings Guru Gobind Dono Khade, that Guru and Krishna, spiritual master and God, both are in front of me. Whom should I bow down to first? Whom should I show respect to first? Well, it is only by the grace of the Guru that I'm able to see Krishna. I've got the vision of God. So my first salutations go to the Guru. It's because of the grace of Guru that I am able to realize God, see God, or attain enlightenment. So this is the importance of the Guru. Let us see what this text says. There's a couple of texts about the Guru. I'm reading out text number 30. Ayam adhikari janana marana adi samsara anala santapto deepta shira jalarashim eva upaharapani shrotriyam brahmanishtam gurum upasritya tam anusarati tadvijnanartham sa gurumeva bhigachet samitpani shrotriyam brahmanishtam ityadi shrutehe. What does this mean? Such a qualified pupil, scorched with the fire of an endless round of birth and death, etc., should repair, just as one with one's head on fire rushes to a lake, with presents in hand, to a guru, spiritual guide, learned in the Vedas and ever living in Brahman, and serve him as the following and other Shrutis say. This is a quotation. Let him, in order to understand this, repair with fuel in hand to a spiritual guide who is learned in the Vedas and lives entirely in Brahman. So what does this mean? It says, I am Adhikari. I am just translating the words of the text. I am Adhikari means this qualified student. What kind of qualified person? What qualities are required? We have already done that. We have seen the fourfold qualities. This person, what does this person do? Guru Mupasritya, I'm jumping ahead, approaching a guru, approaching a teacher. Why does this person approach a teacher? He says, Anala Santapta, as if burning with fever or burning with a fire, being scorched, as if scorched. Scorched with what? Suffering. What kind of suffering? Janana Maranadi Samsara Anala. The fire of samsara, which consists of the cycle of birth and death. But it's a good thing, being born, not necessarily. It brings you, the infinite being, within the limitations of a particular body, and then you're subjected to all the sufferings of samsara, not once, many times, without cease. Adi, etc. Etc. means not just birth and death, but whatever takes place, specifically whatever takes place within birth and death. So sickness and old age and misery and failure and frustration, all kinds of sufferings. Santapta, this is compared to a fire. Anala, anala means fire. Compared to a fire, santapta, tortured by this, scorched by this. And he gives an example. Deepta shira jalarashim eva. Just as a Deepta shira means, just as a person who's got fire on the head. Now, why a person would have fire on the head is a different matter. But suppose a hair has caught fire. Now, what would the person do? Is rushing to find a lake, Jalarashi, a pond or a lake where he can dive in and cool himself and put out the fire. Just like that, with that kind of burning desire. Another example which is often given is this: a guru had a student, a disciple, who after many years complained that I'm not making progress in spiritual life. I haven't seen God yet. And the guru, when will I see God? And he pestered the guru like that. So one day the guru said, come with me. And they go to the river, and the guru takes him and dunks the student in the water and keeps him down underwater. Very soon the student is struggling, trying to come out to gasp for breath. And then finally the guru lets him go. And the student comes up and gasps for breath and catches his breath after some time. The guru says, how did you feel? Oh, I would have given anything for a breath of air, for a gulp of air. I was dying. The Guru says, when you feel like that for God, you're going to realize God. So that's just another similar example. Approaches the Guru. What kind of Guru? Shrotriyam Brahmanishtam. So these are from the Upanishads, which describe what are the qualifications of the Guru. Usually 3 are mentioned. Shrotriyam, Brahmanishtam, Akamahata. Shrotriyam means the person must be, okay, backing up. One might say that, well, what I want for a guru is an enlightened person. He's going to teach me about Brahman. I would want that guru to be, enlightened, realize Brahman. The problem is we don't know. How do you know? How do you test? And such people are very rare and far in between. If that would, my enlightenment would depend upon being the student of an enlightened teacher, that would be very difficult. So what then, but are there any criteria at all? Yes, there are criteria. So what are the criteria? Shrotriya means Shruti. The word Shruti means the Vedas, specifically here Vedanta. So Shrotriya means well versed in Vedanta, well versed in the fundamentals of Vedanta. So a person must be learned in, at least here in our case, Advaita Vedanta, the tradition of Advaita Vedanta. Why? Why does a person have to be learned? Why not just enlightened? Person may be personally, the person could be enlightened, but might not be really able to help all kinds of spiritual inquirers. So that's why Sri Ramakrishna used to put it this way. What is the use of studying so much and learning so much? He said that a person who wants to kill himself can do so with a nail, just a piece of iron can kill oneself. But if you want to fight with enemies and defeat enemies, you need a sword and a shield and all that. So that's an example of how much depth, learning, clarity is required to deal with, to help seekers of all kinds, of all different stages, all kinds of mentalities. You have to deal with all of that. So one needs this thing. That's why disciples of Sri Ramakrishna, when they founded the monastery, you notice they are engaged in meditation, in prayer, and intense spiritual practices, but a lot of study also, a lot of study, which is what helped Vivekananda later on in this country. So anyway, so Shrotriya, the first one is the teacher must be well versed. In a more general way, now if we just expand beyond the confines of Advaita Vedanta, at least well versed in that teacher's lineage, in that teacher's tradition. So if I'm going to a bhakti teacher, I would want that teacher to be well versed in the bhakti traditions. So like that. That's one, Shrotriya. The second one is Akamahata. Akamahata means, literally that means not wounded or not damaged by desire. So the teacher must not want anything from me, the student, other than my own welfare. So the teacher must not be after money or power or any kind of other motive. Often you see these cults which are associated with religion, especially in this country, but in India also. So one person is venerated as the teacher, and it's all about the teacher's personality. And there are hundreds, if not thousands of people sort of blindly following a teacher. That is not a good sign. That's not a good sign. That's not the approach in Vedanta. The teacher should not have anything to gain personally from this teacher-student relationship. It should be all about giving knowledge, transmitting this so that the student can attain enlightenment. There's a very nice example given about the teacher-student relationship. So there is what is called the philosopher's stone. In India, it's known as Parasmani. There's like a special thing which, if it touches ordinary metal, it converts it into gold. So if you touch anything with that, it converts it into gold. Well, the guru is something greater than this. The guru converts you into a guru, makes you enlightened and gives you the knowledge. So it's a philosopher's stone can only convert ordinary things into gold, but not into another philosopher's stone, into another Parasmani. But the guru does that, brings you up to the guru's level. That's what the guru does. And the third quality, which is mentioned here, is Brahmanishta. Brahmanishta literally means being established in Brahman, or as it is translated here, living in Brahman or being established in. being established in Brahman would mean the person is completely dedicated to spiritual life. That the person is dedicated to a life of, Advaita Vedanta would mean Shravana, Manana, Nididhyasana, the constant cultivation of this knowledge and the transmitting of this knowledge. And you can see it's not a part-time teacher. It's not somebody going to give you a degree or somebody giving you a crash course for hundreds of dollars. Not like that. This is the whole life of the spiritual teacher. The teacher is completely dedicated to spiritual life and nothing else. These are three good signs. So one is must be well versed in the texts, in the tradition. Second is that must not have any ulterior motive, any other, especially any worldly motive. Third is that the teacher must be Brahmanishta, established in Brahman, established, let us say it, established in the spiritual life. That must be the whole purpose of the teacher's life. It must begin and end there. Nothing else is there in the teacher's life except that. So such a teacher, upasitya, approaching such a teacher, and then tan anusarati, follows such a teacher. How do you approach? Upaharapani, with gifts in hand. So there's a formal way of approaching a teacher in Vedantic times, in Vedic times, where what you would do is, the teacher, the student who wants to learn from a teacher would go to the ashram, which would be usually a forest hermitage, and would go to the sage of the ashram, would bow down, and would offer, among the gifts would be a bundle of firewood. Why a bundle of firewood? Because the ashrams would, they perform the Vedic fire rituals. So I am bringing this to support your ashram. Basically, symbolically, that I am bringing what the ashram needs. So I am offering this. But that was the original idea in Vedic times. Student would bow down and offer a bundle of firewood, and this would be a signal. This would be signal that I am here to learn Vedanta. Why? This actually it directly refers to one of the Upanishads. That's what is being quoted here from the Mundaka Upanishad. Tad Vijnanartham sa Gurumeva. This is from Mundaka Upanishad. The student, for enlightenment, for the purpose of enlightenment, Vijnana, Gurumeva Vigacchit. One should approach a guru. How? Samitpani, with firewood. So that explains this translation. One might find it peculiar. Why would you go to the guru? Repair to the guru is Old English, that is approach the guru. Why would you go to the guru with fuel in hand? Like, would you go there with gasoline or something like that? No. The whole point was to approach with the firewood, which was used for the Vedic fire rituals in the ashram. I explained this in Hollywood once, in the ashram there. And next day in the morning, when I opened my door, there was this bundle of wood outside, nicely tied up in cloth outside my door. So somebody took it very literally. So they gave me this firewood. I told this story to Swami Chaitanyanandaji, and he said, well, you know what happened to me many, many years ago when he came to USA in the early 70s. So he gave a talk about in the same Mundaka Upanishad, there's a description of the bow and arrow. So, and there's a whole, it compares archery to spiritual life. He described that. And next day in the morning, he found a bow and arrow outside his door. So, this is the quotation. Ityadi Shrutehe means from the Shrutis, from the Upanishads. I'm quoting from the Upanishads. Ityadi, this and others, etc. And one more supporting text is given, 31. Sa Guru Parama Kripaya Adhyaropa Apavada Nyayena Enam Upadishati. Such a Guru, by out of utmost grace, Parama Kripaya, Enam Upadishati, teaches the student. How does he teach the student? The method is given. Adhyaropa Apavada Nyayena, by the method of superimposition and desuperimposition. What's that? We'll see. That's very crucial. We'll see that today. And again, he quotes from the same thing from the same section of the Mundaka Upanishad. I'm on text number 31 now. Here is the quotation. Tasmai sa vidwan upasannaya samyak prashanta chittaya shamanvitaya yenaksharam purusham veda satyam provachatam tattvato brahma vidyam. So this is from the Mundaka Upanishad. What does it mean? To that pupil who has approached him with due courtesy, whose mind has become perfectly calm, and who has control over his senses, the wise teacher should truly impart that knowledge of Brahman through which he knows that being imperishable and real. Very poetic, very lofty. Basically, the idea is that teacher is now pleased and transmits the knowledge of Brahman to the student. So, okay, these are all the preliminaries. Now we begin the whole thing. The crucial thing in text number 31 was the method of Vedanta. I cannot stress this enough. Once in a while, I'll point out what is a key text, what is important. So here we are coming to a very central text, which is important for all of Advaita Vedanta. This is the heart of Advaita Vedanta. One sadhu in Uttarakhand said, Adhyarop apavad to Vedant ka hriday hai. This method of superimposition and desuperimposition is the heart of Vedanta. What is going on in Vedanta is basically this. Superimposition, desuperimposition. Swami Vivekananda calls it hypnotization, dehypnotization. We have been hypnotized. All that Vedanta tries to do is dehypnotize us. So what is this and how does it work? We must have a full grasp on this because the rest of the book is just about this. What will go on from now on will be this superimposition and desuperimposition. Let me just read text number 32, and then I will explain. So just like as always, the author uses a new term and then defines it. He's defined superimposition, desuperimposition. So first he has to define superimposition. Text 32. Asarpa bhutayam rajjau sarpa aropavat vastuni avastu aropaha adhyaropaha. So the Sanskrit word for superimposition is adhyaropa. Another well-known word is adhyasa. Very important word, a key word in Advaita philosophy, adhyasa. It simply means superimposition. A simpler word would be error. Much simpler word would be error. So what does this say? 32. Asarpa bhutayam rajjo sarpa aropavad vastuni avastu aropa. Adhyaropa is the superimposition of the unreal on the real, like the false perception of a snake in a rope, which is not a snake. Now, a rope, the classic Vedantic example, Advaitic example. There's a rope, maybe in the semi-darkness, and I do not see that it's a rope, but when I look at it, I suddenly see it's a snake. Obviously, I'm making a mistake. It's a rope. I don't see that it's a rope. I see something is there. I see something is there. When look closely or look at it once more, I say it's a snake. Now, there is no snake there. I'm making a mistake. So what has happened here? And then later on, of course, I take a close look and I say, oh, it's not a snake. It's a rope. Now, what has happened here? Superimposition and desuperimposition. How does this superimposition, the first part of it, happen? What happens is there's some reality, say a rope. Next, the rope is unknown. I don't know it as a rope. I just know it as something. And then I make a mistake. Third, what happens next? What happens is a mistake. Rope, not known as a rope, known as a something there, and I look there, and then the next thing is a mistake. Oh, it's a snake. And everything that is consequent upon the mistake. It could be scared, it could shout in fear, or your heartbeat could increase, or whatever, depending on the mistake. And then what happens next? You take a closer look, you examine it. And by examining it, you realize it's not a snake. The error is corrected. You realize it's not a snake, it's a rope. This realization, it's not a snake, it's a rope, is called desuperimposition. In Sanskrit, apavadaha. Apavada means negation or desuperimposition. Superimposition, desuperimposition. Don't be fooled by the term imposition, superimposition. Imposition might be that you put something on something. Here is a book, I'm putting a pen on it. But it's not like this. It's not that there is a rope and you put a snake on it. Superimposition is taking something to be what it is not. Taking something to be what it is not. That is superimposition. That's not a physical imposition. You're not putting something, when the way it is said, superimposition of the unreal on the real, superimposition of a snake on a rope. It's not that you take a snake and put it on a rope. It is, we take the rope to be a snake, we mistake the rope to be a snake. That is superimposition. And correction of this error is called desuperimposition. In Sanskrit, adhyaropa apavada. So what does this have to do with us? It goes like this. This story I had told once is particularly useful here, of the donkey. You know, the Indian washerman goes around collecting clothes, and so he'll turn up at your house. He usually has a donkey, and he'll take your dirty laundry and put it on the donkey and collect, go around the neighborhood, go back home, and then they will go to the river bed or the river bank of the river, the washerman, and unload the donkey, and then wash clothes, dry the clothes. It's a day-long process. And then once the clothes are dried, fold them all, and then put them on the donkey and come back home. And the next day he will go around on his rounds and distribute the clean clothes, return the clean clothes to you. So you can see the donkey is very important for all of this. Now this washerman, he went with his laundry to the river to wash the clothes, and with a donkey, and he comes there to the river bank. When he unloads the clothes, and then to his horror, he realizes he has forgotten to get the rope with which to tie the donkey. Now he can't take his clothes to the river and wash the clothes because the donkey will wander off. And if he loses the donkey, he's a poor man. He is desperate. While a wise person walks past, what is your problem? Why do you look so desperate? Oh, sir, the trouble that I am in. If I go back home now, a little bit, the whole day will be wasted. But I can't have, I will have no peace of mind when I'm washing the clothes because the donkey, I may lose the donkey. I'm a poor man. It'll be disastrous for me. And this wise person says, oh, don't worry. You just pretend to go through the motions of tying the donkey as if you have the rope. Just try tying the donkey to the tree. Just pretend as if you have a rope. Will that work? Yes, it'll work. And this man tries it. You know, he's tying the donkey as he sort of pretends. There's no rope. And he looks at the donkey, and the donkey looks at him. That watches him carefully. And then having done that, he walks backwards slowly, watching the donkey, and the donkey is watching him, but doesn't make a move, doesn't move a muscle. The donkey is standing there as if it's tired. And slowly this man gains confidence in this, and he goes and starts washing clothes, and once in a while looks back, the donkey is standing there, eating grass, not going anywhere, as if it's tired. In the evening, he goes, loads the clothes on the donkey and says, up, let's go back home. And the donkey doesn't move. Now he is in trouble. He realizes what the problem is. The donkey thinks it's tied. But how does he get the donkey to move? If it was a real rope, he could have at least untied it. There's no rope. How is he going to get the donkey to move? And then he runs to that wise man's home and says, sir, what trouble you have put me in? Now I can't get the donkey to move. He said, that's so easy. Just pretend to untie it. Make sure the donkey sees you. He goes back and he pretends to untie it, opens the rope as if there's nothing there. The donkey watches and he says, hop, let's go. And the donkey starts walking. Okay, so this is superimposition and desuperimposition. Nothing happened, but the donkey felt it was bound, and the donkey felt it was liberated. May sound funny, the joke's on us. We are like that. We are like that donkey. According to Vedanta, nothing is the problem right now, but you feel that you are suffering, and that is absolutely evident to us that we are in sorrow and we are in misery, and what is the way out of this? No matter how much Vedanta tells you, you are the infinite existence, consciousness, bliss, that doesn't sound like anything within my experience. So Vedanta has to go through this process of showing you how we came, showing us how we came to be in this state. Start from the absolute, show us how we came to be in this bound state, that is tying the donkey. And then from this state, show us the way out to realize how we are Brahman right now. We are absolutely free. Things are perfectly all right right now. That is the desuperimposition, untying the donkey. That is called Adhyaropa Apavada. Part of it is, the first part of it we have already done. Vedanta just has to track the disaster that we have done. We'll begin to see how we have come to be in this state. Vedanta will show us that and then show us the way out of it. And at the end of it, we will realize, oh, it was perfectly all right. So in the Himalayas, they say, what does Vedanta do? Praptasya prapti, nivrittasya nivritti. What does it give you? It gives you what you've already got. What does it remove? What trouble does it solve? What does it remove? It removes what was never there. Samsara, you never had samsara. You are Brahman, you never had samsara. It's not that you will, after enlightenment, one realizes, oh, I was in samsara. There was so much trouble. Now I'm free of it. Thank God. No, I realize I never was in samsara. This cosmic joke. But the thing is, we are playing the joke on ourselves. And it's not very funny when you're at this state. It might be funny once you're liberated. That's why I think enlightened people are always basically very happy and also very amused at what's going on. So many Zen stories of they are about people attaining enlightenment and bursting out laughing. All right. Now, notice the stories that I have told. They all are like this. Now you begin to see what's going on. For example, you remember the story of the king Janaka, who went to sleep and he dreamt that the country had been invaded. And he goes to fight a battle, and then he loses the battle, and his country is conquered by the invader. And you remember, many of you have heard that story. I've told it often. And then he's driven out of his kingdom in exile. He is hungry and tired. He goes to a place where, like a soup kitchen, where food is being given, and that food which it comes to his bowl, that is also knocked out of his hand by a kite which swoops down, and he collapses and falls down, bitterly lamenting his fate. And he wakes up sitting on his bed. It's a nightmare. But being a philosopher, the Emperor Janaka, he thinks, was that true or is this true? In Hindi, wo sach ya ye sach. So was that true or is this true? This could be a dream too. It could be that actually there was a war and I was defeated and I fainted, and now I think that I'm sitting up in my bed in my kingdom and nothing's wrong. This could be a dream. Was that true? Is this true? And then there's a whole story. I will not go through that. Finally, the sage Ashtavakra comes and tells him that he asks the sage, was that true or is this true? And he says that at that time when we are rolling in the dust and we're having lost your kingdom and miserable, all this power and glory and safety and security which you see all around you now, was all this there? He says no. And now all that defeat and humiliation and the bitterness and sorrow you felt at that time and all the experiences, that you had lost your kingdom and you were rolling in the dust, and is all that there right now? The emperor says no. Then neither that is true nor this is true. Then the emperor thinks, is nothing true then? And he says, but were you there at that time to experience that terrible dream? I experienced it. I can't deny that. And are you there here right now to experience this, even though it's false? He says, yes, I can't deny that I'm experiencing it. So then neither that is true nor this is true. You are the truth. You means that experiencing consciousness, that awareness. That is that only truth here. Now ye sach, now wo sach, tum hi sach. Okay, so I've told this story many times. Now, your assignment is to see which part of it is superimposition and which part of it is desuperimposition. It's not just the dream and the waking, all of it is superimposition. The idea that I am an emperor, I rule a kingdom, I am the dream that I had lost the empire and I was defeated, the whole thing, including the body, including the thoughts in the mind, everything is a superimposition. And what is the superimposition? This, when the sage tells him that neither that was true, nor this is true, but what is the truth? Where is the rope? You are the consciousness to which all of this appeared. All of this appeared and disappeared. All of it is an appearance in consciousness. This consciousness alone is real, which is the one which experiences all of it. Now, this is desuperimposition. Exactly like not knowing the rope. That is like falling, Janaka falling asleep. And then experiencing a snake. So that's like Janaka dreaming. Or even is waking. So experiencing a snake. And then correcting the error, seeing it's not a snake, it's a rope. That's like experiencing, it's not neither the waking nor the dreaming, none of them are real. It's the consciousness in which all of these appear and disappear. That one is real. That is desuperimposition. So notice this whole story, same method is applied. As he says here, all teaching is done by this method. Another story. You remember the story of the 10th man? I've often used it. So now your assignment is to track where is superimposition, where is desuperimposition. 10 people crossed a river and then they thought, well, my friend has done some. Have we all crossed or did somebody drown? They counted, they found 9, and or they thought that one person has drowned. They were crying, and then a wise person tells them, why are you crying? And they say that our friend has drowned. The wise person says, your friend is there, don't worry. How? I'll show you. Count again. So one of them counted 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and the wise person said, you are the 10th. And they realized, oh, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Ah, the 10th person has been found. What joy. Now, what was the superimposition here? The superimposition was not, first of all, ignorance is at the root of superimposition. Note everywhere, not seeing the snake and not seeing the rope. That's the first one. Similarly, not knowing that I'm dreaming, for example. So I've fallen asleep, not knowing the waking state, for example. That's the cause of superimposition of a dream. Here, not knowing that the 10th person is alive. That's the cause. Ignorance of the existence of the 10th person. Then what is the superimposition? 10th person is drowned and it's terrible. And we are all going to weep and wail. What is the desuperimposition? Thou art the 10th. Thou art the 10th. And they suddenly realize 10th person is here. There's no cause for sorrow. You remember the beautiful story of the princess of Kashi? Yeah. So I will not repeat all the stories. It will become story time. In fact, I have a good mind to do a talk with only stories. So just this series of stories and then work out the Vedanta, the Advaitic philosophy carefully woven into these stories. In fact, the 10th man story, Panchadashi, Vidyaranya uses this 10th man story to delineate 7 stages of spiritual life, from ignorance and bondage up to freedom and attainment of liberation, everything. 7 stages just through this story. Princess of Kashi. Princess of Kashi. So people are saying yes to story session. Yes. The Princess of Kashi, that the prince thought that there's this princess whose painting he saw and thought, I will marry this princess. And if I don't marry the princess, I'll be unhappy. And finally, it was revealed to him that it was his painting done when he was a little kid. He had totally forgotten about it. So there is no princess apart from him. He is the only reality. So superimposition, that there is a princess of Kashi and she is beautiful. And I am in love with the princess of Kashi and I'm going to marry the princess of Kashi. All of it superimposition. And the consequent sorrow. Desuperimposition, pointing out that thou art, O prince. You as a child, you were painted in this way. There is no princess of Kashi apart from you. In another way, the princess of Kashi was never separate from you. You alone appear in that form. That is desuperimposition. Okay. At no point, notice, at no point had anything really happened. In each of these stories, at no point had anything really happened. But it seemed to be a total disaster, terrible thing. And it is solved by knowledge. Knowledge of what? Knowledge of the underlying reality. Knowledge of the rope solves the illusion of the snake. Knowledge of one's own, of the waking solves the illusion of dreaming. Knowledge of the painting, that I am the one who was painted, solves the illusion of the separate existence of Princess of Kashi. So on. Similarly, now applying it to our case. Knowledge that you are Brahman solves this world illusion, that I am a body and mind, I inhabit a physical material universe in which I'm struggling, tomorrow I may die, and there is so much sorrow and suffering. All of this material, this illusion is corrected by the knowledge that I am this pure, this consciousness. I like the term, this being awareness, unlimited being awareness, and isness awareness. This is Adhyaropa Apavada, the method of superimposition, desuperimposition. All Vedanta is this. Now this gives you a new lens to look at Upanishads, to look at Vedanta text and see how Adhyaropa Apavada is playing out. What will this book do now? I can tell you just in a couple of sentences. What's going to happen for the rest of this book? First of all, he's going to say, look, there is this ultimate reality, Brahman. And then he will introduce Maya. And because of Maya, Brahman appears as the 5 elements. And through 5 elements, they get mixed. And there's a process in which the material world appears, the subtle world appears. Bodies and minds, all of these are created. And so comes the individual sentient being. Propelled by the individual sentient being's karma and ignorance, a life starts. Life after life goes on, cycle. And it's a beginningless and endless thing. It goes on. It will come to really an end only upon knowledge. Knowledge of what? Then starts the next part. That apavada, the negation, the desuperimposition. How do you do that? By the teaching of Vedanta. It will show you how, and it will end. That's the whole story. The whole story, we must understand this. There are many implications of this. It is a method. Don't forget that. So when they, I'll tell you one very interesting implication with regard to modern science. So when you will see, they'll talk about how fire and water and space and all of this emerged from Brahman covered by Maya. And from the 5 elements emerged this world. So very old, ancient cosmology, which they have entirely, Advaita Vedanta, notice, is entirely borrowed from Sankhya and is mentioned in the Upanishads also. Interestingly, some places it is mentioned 5 elements came out of Brahman, and from that the entire universe is created. In Chandogya Upanishad, 3 elements are mentioned. Now, at some place, Shankara takes up this issue. Why? I think in Brahma Sutras probably. So which is right? Did 5 elements come out of Brahman and make this entire universe? Or did 3 elements come out? Shankara says that's not the point. Don't forget what's going on. It's a method of enlightening you. The Upanishads, Vedanta is not interested in 3 elements or 5 elements. After all, what's the truth? Nothing really came out. The Brahman alone exists. Now, this is a way of untying the donkey. Shankara does not say that. I'm saying it. So it does not matter whether the rope has to be untied in this way or the rope has to be untied in that way. There's no rope. Whatever works to show you the truth, that is welcome. That's why it's crucial. That's why Vedanta is compatible with science. Because Vedanta does not make claims in competition with science, with physics or with chemistry or biology. No. You can knock out this entire cosmology. But whatever is being said now, but we will see. These are all based, remember, it was written 700 years ago. So this is all based on the Upanishads. You can knock this entire thing out and you can plug in modern science. Only your way back to Brahman will be a little obscure because of modern science, but doesn't matter. And what I'm saying is, in principle, Shankara and the non-dualists will have no objection. Because they are not taking this to be a real universe at all. Science investigates this appearance and the appearance of the universe and finds out laws and regularities which are all there. Maya is basically law or regularity. Maya means the measurable, that which is measurable, literally science. So all within the realm of science, Advaita Vedanta has no conflict. Somebody, they say that science proceeds by testable, falsifiable claims. So one way that a scientist might judge something is, tell me an experiment to falsify that claim. By what experiment will I be able to see whether your claim is true or false? And if something is not falsifiable, it's not a scientific statement. So that's how people take it, and they get worried. The Advaitic claim that there is pure being is not a falsifiable thing. I mean, it's how would you even test it? So that criterion does not apply to this. This is the most fundamental question of philosophy of our existence. Measurability, falsifiability, these are very good criterion for testing scientific propositions. This is not scientific, this is actually much deeper than science. I was reading Heidegger in his Introduction to Metaphysics. He says this is the greatest and the deepest of all questions. Where did I mention this? Yeah, so Heidegger says that this question about why does anything exist at all? This question about existence, being. He says a whole of Western philosophy, after the Greeks, nobody ever talked about this. They talked about what is in existence, and then they discussed substance, quality, action, good, bad, all of that was discussed, fine. But why is there anything at all? There could be nothing. Why does this universe, why do we anything exist at all? Why is there existence also? So this is the greatest question. And this is amazing. Mundaka Upanishad starts with this question. The Mundaka Upanishad says the science of Vedanta is the first of all sciences, of all knowledge. And here Heidegger, thousands of years later, he says this question is the first of all questions. That question, the answer is in the Upanishads. So the Upanishads recognized this several thousand years ago. This is the first of all knowledge. Sarva Vidya Pratishtha. So Brahma Vidya is the foundation of all knowledge, or the first of all knowledge. Why first? Why first? Heidegger beautifully analyzes this question about existence itself. Why is it the first rank of questions? Because he says three things. Because he says it is the widest of all questions. Because it is the most profound of all questions. And third, he says it's the most fundamental of all questions. What is widest, profound, or widest, deepest, and most fundamental? What does he mean? Widest means nothing at all is beyond the purview of this question. Anything that exists is included. And if you say, what is the limit? What is it that this question does not discuss? That will be that which does not exist. So automatically that is beyond. And he even says, even that by relation to existence is also included indirectly within this question. What exists? Why does anything exist at all is the widest of questions. Are you with me here? Widest of questions. After all, existence itself. Then deepest of questions. He says all other questions, biology, psychology, language, art, chemistry, even deeper, physics, even deeper, mathematics. But the deepest of all is existence itself. So it is the deepest of all questions. It goes even beyond the most fundamental of physics and mathematics, the deepest of all questions. And then a very subtle point he makes, the most fundamental of questions, this question about existence itself. Why is anything there at all? He says it's the most fundamental. Why? Because it is the hallmark of the greatest and most profound question, that it questions itself. Remember, the questioner, I who am asking this question, or the question itself, why is there anything at all? That's also something within the range of existence. It's also an entity which exists. I, the questioner, I am also an entity which exists. The question is also an entity which exists. So when the question asks why, it is not only questioning everything, it's also questioning itself. So he says the form of this question is why? This is related to the question which we keep having in Vedanta discussions. Why is there Maya at all? It is the question is of the form why? Why means causation. When you're asking why? So in this way, for these three reasons, what a beautiful analysis. He says that he says to begin with, you must appreciate the greatest of these questions. Why it is so great? One must appreciate the incredible nature of this question. Okay. Heidegger is not a good man to quote because of his association with Hitler and the Nazis. So he is in the bad books of everybody. But those who are in the trade, philosophers, they will sort of admit in a sort of voice to you that he was like the matchless philosopher of the 20th century, probably the greatest philosopher of 20th century. Okay, just this text, and then we'll take questions. This text says, Asarpa bhutayam rajyo sarpa aropavat vastuni avastu aropa. Just as you superimpose a snake on a rope which is not a snake, similarly, we are superimposing the unreal, avastu, that which is not real, on the real. That means just like the rope is not known as a rope, the reality is not known as a reality. The snake is not there, but it appears. The universe is not there, but it appears. And by implication, by an investigation into this very appearance, into the snake, you will discover the rope. The moment you discover the rope, you will correct the error. It's not a rope, it's not a snake. Not by an investigation of snake itself will you correct it. You must discover the rope to correct the error. You must discover that Brahman, you as Brahman, to correct the error of you as body, mind, and this as a material samsara. It must be an investigation to find the reality of the ground of error. No amount of studying of the snake will, reading books about snake will enlighten you. You must see you must find out the rope, which is right there. Notice also something interesting. When you are experiencing the so-called snake, you are actually experiencing the rope. You are seeing nothing other than the rope. When we are experiencing Brahman, we are experiencing when we are experiencing the world outside, we see, hear, smell, taste, touch, forms, sounds, smells, tastes, touch, warmth, cold, heat, pressure, pain. And then we experience thoughts, feelings, emotions, ideas. When we are experiencing all of this, we are experiencing none other than pure being, isness, awareness. What is in between, like the snake, is Maya. All of this will be discussed. But keep in mind, this is the plot. I've given away the plot at the very beginning. This is what is going to happen for the rest of the book. The first half of the book, more than half, it will go on to, I'll tell you, it will go on to text number if you see the book, it will go on to text number 136. We are now on text number 32. It will go on to 136. What is going to go on? Superimposition, error. So as we go through complications, more and more complicated, keep in mind, don't take it seriously. You have been warned. He is going to teach you a whole deal of ancient cosmology, how the universe is produced from, and then tell you, ha, fooled you. None of that is true. And that will start from text number 137. Okay, let's take questions now.
My question is more with the preliminaries. I think in the previous classes we discussed. So in Hinduism, there's these philosophies like Vedanta and Sankhya and all that. But within the Vedanta philosophy, there are those schools like let's say Dvaita and Advaita. Now these are schools within Vedanta, but they seem to have different interpretations of the ultimate reality, how to approach it. So I keep wondering what's common to call them like within the Vedanta philosophy, schools of philosophy, not separate systems.
Okay, so you're right. It's not that they seem to have different interpretation. They do have widely different interpretations. So one general way of understanding all the schools of Vedanta philosophy are Advaita Vedanta, which we are studying, and everything else. Why would you club all those other schools into everything else? Dvaita, Vishishtadvaita, Dvaita, then Shuddhadvaita, Achintya Bheda Bhed. These are the major non-Advaitic schools. Why would you club them together? You would, because there's one characteristic of all of them. They are all bhakti schools. They are all, to some extent, dualistic, and they depend on bhakti primarily. And they are not primarily knowledge-based approaches, which is why Swami Vivekananda kept them at an arm's length. When he came and taught in the United States, in America, primarily, he mentioned other schools, but primarily he would say non-dual Vedanta, because here he says it's a rational religion suited for this age. Anyway, so I'm not going to now tom-tom our system. But yes, now your question is, there are multiple systems of Indian philosophy, Sankhya, Yoga, Nyaya, Vaisheshika, and many others. So why don't we say that these different schools, which are quite different from Advaita Vedanta, why don't we say that they are also different schools of philosophy instead of including them under the umbrella of Vedanta? That's the basic question. The question is one of text. What are the sources and methods of those schools? Those schools are also just like Advaita Vedanta. They accept the Upanishads as their foundational texts, the Bhagavad Gita and the Brahma Sutras. Only their interpretations of the Upanishad, Bhagavad Gita and Brahma Sutra leads to all these widely different interpretations and different sub-schools of Vedanta.
Yeah, I was thinking about that. But then if we see the source books like Bhagavad Gita and Upanishads, let's say the Shvetashvatar Upanishad, it has not all texts are truly strictly Advaita text. They have devotional things too in those books. Like Gita has devotional. I mean, it doesn't stick to Advaita all through. So, but then we seem to default when we say Vedanta, in most contexts, we seem to default to Advaita Vedanta. But then if we see the Vedanta text, there is a spread. I mean, there seems to be text.
Absolutely. And absolutely. There are Advaitic texts, there are non-dualistic texts, there are dualistic statements within the Upanishads. Many. And within the Bhagavad Gita. And the Brahma Sutra also, there are dualistic statements there, some of the sutras. So what? The question is, how do you deal with these texts? So Advaita Vedanta, what Shankara does is, he gives primacy to Advaitic texts, and then he shows, because those have to be explained. Advaita Vedanta also has to explain the dualistic texts within Upanishads. So what he does is, he shows them as supporting. So the way I teach Advaita Vedanta, or any traditional teacher also will say, so what about bhakti? What about devotion, meditation? All those, are we to reject them? No. Again and again, all those, I say that all of those are helpful. They are all supporting, and they prepare you for non-dual realization. Look at the qualifications of the aspirant. The person must do selfless work. The person must do upasana, meditation, then we'll get purity of mind, concentration of mind. I mentioned all of these earlier. Then when you go to the Upanishads and come across a dualistic text, you will say, aha, here is a text which is helping me to get prepared for non-dualism. This is the approach of a non-dualistic interpretation. What do the dualists do? Just the opposite. They will dismiss the non-dual as that it does not really mean non-dualism, and they will play up the dualistic statements in the Upanishads and Bhagavad Gita and say, that's the point. You can do both. Then the question remains, so what do we do? Follow non-dualism. Be very clear about it. And also remember, this was the greatness of Sri Ramakrishna. He said that all of these things are possible, and they are all paths to enlightenment. So is Advaita Vedanta right? Can you take the non-dualistic text and make the dualistic text subservient? Can you take the non-dualistic realization and make it the goal, and make all the other dualistic practices secondary? Can you do that? Yes, you can do that. But equally, that was Sri Ramakrishna's point. When the dualist comes and says, no, Sring Hare Rama Hare Krishna, be devoted to Krishna, that's the point of Bhagavad Gita. Can you do that? Sri Ramakrishna would say, yes, you can do that also.
Thank you, Maharaj.
A strict Advaita teacher would say, no, you can do that, that's not wrong, and that will be helpful, but ultimately you must come to non-dual realization. Otherwise, you will not get moksha. A strict dualistic teacher would say, no, only this is the way to liberation, by singing the glories of Krishna and being devoted to Krishna. What about non-dualism? Does that help? No, it does not help. It's totally wrong. It's false. So this was the approach until someone like, say, Sri Ramakrishna comes along and says, Jato mot tato pot. Then would come the question of, if that is so, then why are you so biased towards Advaita Vedanta? Well, I take Advaita Vedanta to be central because of multiple reasons, not the least of which is that it is our central tradition. That is what we are, Advaitic monks. That's how we were, the whole Ramakrishna order came up in that way. Holy Mother clearly said, you are all non-dualists. তোমরা সব অদ্বৈতবাদী, আমি নিশ্চিত রূপে বলতে পারি, I can say with conviction, you are all Advaitins, Advaitavadi. That means proponents of the system of Advaita.
Swamiji, can questions themselves act as imaginary ropes? For example, in the last couple of days, I seem to have tied myself into knots over a very specific question about ethics in Advaita. And last night I asked a question about it, but I didn't formulate it well. A better question on ethics would be that Professor Rambachan asked at the Harvard panel that you were part of.
Yes.
And I'm quoting him now.
Yes.
He said, Vedanta is ultimately awakening us to a deep peace and joy within. But what is the relationship between peace and justice? What is the relationship between an inward state of joy and injustice in the world? It seems to be relevant to me right now. I mean, state of America, etc.
The answer to that is found in Vivekananda's interpretation of his practical Vedanta. So on the same Advaitic basis, this tremendous call for social justice. He said that the two great sins of India have been the neglect of the masses and the oppression of women. And then to serve the one who serves the jiva, that one truly loves God. The service of God like the service of the sentient being, the jiva, is the worship of God. Where is all that coming from? Shiva Jnana Jiva Seva, all of that, the entire doctrine of service in the Ramakrishna order, it's all based on Advaita Vedanta. It's an extension. It's not anything dramatically new. It can be done. It's an extension of that Advaitic realization. If we are one, then how can I treat people differently? How can I treat, how can I have privilege? How can I grab power? How can I discriminate? How can I oppress if we are one reality? It's only when we are different then these things come into play. So you can clearly see how Advaita Vedanta can be extended into the field of ethics very easily. So the link between peace, internal peace and joy, and justice, that's not well put. I mean, I think that the link is between the realization of oneness and justice. You work it out. It's a straightforward equation. Oneness of all existence and justice, straightforward equation. In fact,
so to solve the problems outside, you have to look inside, is what you're saying.
You have
care of the self is.
Notice, inside and outside is a false dichotomy. That's based on the skin, this body.
No, I'm talking about the empirical world. So from that domain.
From an Advaitic perspective, when you make the change, there is no inside and outside. Everything is one reality. So not a separate one reality. There's a pure land of bliss, existence, consciousness, and that's far away from the misery of this world. No, that which you see as the snake is the rope. That which you see as samsara full of injustice is Brahman. That which you see as Brahman is the samsara full of injustice. So there you have to work it out. What is the implication of oneness for injustice? It has to be combated. What is the implication of oneness for suffering in the world? If I am one with that suffering person and I work for removing the suffering of this body, I must equally work for removing the suffering of that body. Advaita Vedanta gives you the justification of the golden rule. Treat others as you wish to be treated. Do not treat others as you wish not to be treated. That's there. The United Nations, when you enter the General Assembly, I mean, when you enter the UN headquarters, I think second floor, big letters. That's the most universal rule of ethics that humanity has found. But I can question that. Why? Why should I treat others as I wish to be treated? If I have power, suppose, why not oppress others? There is no answer. In no religion of the world, in no system of ethics, except, I'm making a clear claim here, except Advaita Vedanta. There's no answer anywhere else. Try it. And I've seen it being discussed threadbare in philosophy classes at Harvard University. It's a bottomless pit. There's no solid ground anywhere except Advaita Vedanta. Why at all do we behave that way? It's because we are identified with one little body and mind. That has to be corrected. From the understanding of oneness of all existence, even the intellectual understanding, flows clearly all the ethics of the world. Internal peace and joy, like Professor Rambachan says, you can have that if you are a bhakta, you are devoted to God and you spend time in thinking about God, singing the names of God and lead a decent moral life, you will have internal peace and joy. How is that related to justice outside? Not related. I will serve, somebody might say, I will serve, they're all children of God, so I will serve. That is the connection to justice. Yes, but only in your system. In your system, what happens is, they are children of God only when they believe in my religion. Service, justice to members of my religion. And for members of other religions? You see the terrible problems involved in that kind of thinking. Only answer. Show me one candidate which has been able to provide a solid basis for ethics in the world till today. 5,000 years of world civilization, nothing. So this article written by Swami Bhajananandaji, it's called Swami Vivekananda's Ontological Ethics. So how Swami Vivekananda uses Advaita Vedanta to provide a foundation for ethics.
No, I think I'm beginning to get it. The separateness is a superimposition that has to be removed.
Yes.
And that is the fundamental
right
aspect of it. Yeah.
Religion cannot do it, because the moment you say I don't believe in religion, then what happens to the ground of ethics? Or if I say I don't believe in your religion, I believe in my religion, then what happens to your justification for ethics? Law cannot do it, because if I can break the law and get away from it, it's an external locus of ethics. I don't have an internal locus. Virtues cannot do it, be a virtuous person. Why? So this is a question of what is called meta-ethics. Ethics deals with what is right and wrong. Meta-ethics deals with ethics itself, that why be ethical, for example. What is the ultimate reasoning for ethics? What is the ultimate ground of ethics? Here it gives you the greatest possible ground of ethics, that we are actually one. And this is not dependent on believing it. Advaita Vedanta says not that you believe in it. No, you have to see that it's already an established fact. You are invited to see this, and then work out ethics from there. So Swami Bhajananandji, in this article, Swami Vivekananda's Ontological Ethics, remarkable article. What he does is, about 20 pages or so, he takes a survey of all the work done in ethics till now. Mostly Western theories of ethics, utilitarian, teleological, deontological, religious ethics, and so on and so forth, and then shows the defects in each. And the defects are well known. Books and books have been written on that. Then he comes to Swami Vivekananda's Ontological Ethics, that based on Advaita Vedanta. I think about 10 points he gives there, the different dimensions of ethics which flow from Advaita Vedanta.
Good evening, Swamiji.
Namaste.
I have a question. Is this then advisable to sort of get to this point where you ask a question, why, and essentially it brings you to the ledge and there knowledge stops and the real self begins, kind of this realization. And therefore, when any question arises, like it's pretty quickly you can get to this why position and continue just being an observer in whatever situation there is and whatever question there is in one's intellect.
All right, Dimitri's question is, no. Here what you are asked to do is not philosophically inquire and try to solve the question of being like Heidegger did. Rather, what you are asked to do is, you're provided with that framework. Now, actually what we will do is inquire into myself. It's more a phenomenological inquiry. This is the correct term. Phenomenological inquiry means start with experience. Advaita Vedanta, the way to do practical Advaita Vedanta is always to follow your experience. What experience? Any experience, whatever we are having right now. So when we actually get to the nuts and bolts of it, they'll provide us with this whole philosophical framework, being, Maya, and the whole problem of why, and then leave it there. And then the only solution is not to give a theoretical solution that how a rope appears as a snake. No, you have to see the rope. Similarly, Advaita actually gives you the solution. You have to see yourself as Brahman. That will solve the entire problem. What Advaita has been claiming till now, the structure it has set up, that there is a reality and we are in error of that reality. Advaita will actually accomplish the, very dramatically. It will correct the error, actually, in fact, for us. Not just set it up as a philosophy and leave you with it. It will actually correct the error, and you will see for yourself that whatever has been shown is a decent way of describing the state of affairs.
And I can I follow this, and so I've listened some lectures that you've recorded on YouTube on this, and when I follow these 5 sheets, and it's actually very clear. I'm not my body, I'm not my mind, I'm not my thoughts, I'm not I. And then there is, this subject that just looks at it all without being entangled. But at that point, is it's hard to remain there without being entangled.
Don't worry about it. We'll see slowly. Two things. One is actually practically what happens is our preparation of the mind is very important. And that's what sucks us back into this illusion. But what Advaita Vedanta also does is gives us with great clarity, and it penetrates through that veil of illusion. We'll see how it goes. We'll see.
Pranam Maharaj, how are you?
Namaskar.
Namaskar, I'm Bindu.
Yes, Bindu. I can see you.
Yeah, okay. So I'm going to try and formulate my question as best as I can. It's in terms of the experiencer. You often, like today, you said you are the consciousness to which all of it appeared, one that experiences. But when we often talk of Brahman, we talk about just the light that illumines or the space where the experience happens. So not having that. So who's the one that's experiencing? If I am illusory in terms of the Vyavaharika, reality, but then you often say that the experience is true, but what you are experiencing is unreal, right? It's not what it seems. It's Brahman. It's not the Nam Rupa that I experience, but it is actually Brahman. So where is this experience happening? Is it just in the, not on the absolute level?
Right. There are multiple things that you need to check here. One is, I would never say that I am illusory in the Vyavaharika or anything like that. You are not illusory. The whole point of Advaita Vedanta is to say that you, in reality, what you are, not as the Bindu personality, but what you are the absolute truth. Jiva Brahmaiva Napara. The Jiva, the sentient being, is actually Brahman, nothing else. So that's the whole point of it. So at no point are you supposed to be illusory. But yes, your limited individuality is an appearance. And then another thing you said that experience, what you experience is false, but the experience is true. No, I never said the experience is true. What I said, so this is why you have to listen very carefully. What I said was, what I always said was, you cannot deny that you experienced something, that you are looking at the world. So for example, a snake. You cannot deny that you saw a snake. Now, what you can deny is that, was it a real thing or was it an error? You can say that, I did see it, but what I saw was not really a snake. I had an experience of a snake. For example, Janaka had this dream. When he wakes up, he can deny that it is real. He can say that nothing happened. But one thing he cannot deny is that he saw it. So that he saw a dream. He can, after waking up, he can call it a dream. Do you follow? It's a subtle difference, but a very big difference. Advaita Vedanta cannot deny what you are seeing, hearing, smelling, tasting right now. That I'm seeing a world, that I'm looking like a human personality with a body and mind. Who can deny it? But what Advaita Vedanta does, and what you can question, is what you are seeing or experiencing, is that real or not? If you watch a movie, you see Harry Potter going to Hogwarts School of Magic. If you see a movie like that, now you can always claim that actually there is no Harry Potter, there is no Hogwarts School of Magic. It's fiction. It's a cinema. But this you cannot deny, that you saw the cinema, that you saw the movie, that you cannot deny. That's a fact. That we experience a world, nobody can deny that. But the reality of the things that we experience can be questioned. That's what Advaita Vedanta does.
Yeah, I get that. I mean, I've heard you several times. I get that. But then who's experiencing, if this mind is a reflected consciousness, who is experiencing in reality?
You are.
But if I as Brahman am real, right?
Yes.
So, but Brahman is not. There is not the quality of. Brahman has the quality of experiencing. Is that what we're saying? Because the way I understand from you is more like a light. It's like a space where things happen, where there is no, how you say between the ego and there's no relationship between I and the pure consciousness. It's all I and reflected consciousness have experience, have a relation. So where does this experience take place?
Okay, let's answer this. Where does Harry Potter go to the Hogwarts School of Magic? On the screen?
No. Yeah.
Does he? Is there really a Harry Potter? Is there a school?
No.
And is there any really going to the
just
school?
Illusion.
No.
No.
And yet it looks like that.
Hmm.
Does the screen have a quality of being Harry Potter and the Hogwarts School of Magic? No. And yet it looks like that. A film critic can write a nice review about it, can tell you everything, all details about it, and yet not one bit of it is true. So do you see how Brahman being, pure being or awareness, can yet appear to be a knowing person called Bindu, and a known world called this world around you, the room you're sitting in, and knowledge itself. I am seeing, hearing, smelling, tasting, touching, all the while being nothing other than absolute reality or existence only.
Okay.
Yeah.
Before I go into Rupert Spira and your talk, I would like to know, what are they talking about this direct and a progressive way? Okay, just hold it there. The talk is coming. If you have not signed up, if you're interested, do sign up for that. It's on Saturday. Rupert is a very well-known direct path Advaita teacher. His talks are famous all over the world. So we're going to have a conversation. It's going to be non-dualism and non-dualism, deeper and deeper, nothing else but Advaita Vedanta. Now, what you have said is it's an important point. I'll bring it up with Rupert. In classical Advaita Vedanta, there is no such talk of direct path and progressive path. What has happened here in the West is because of the influence, originally of the influence of Ramana Maharshi and one Advaita teacher called Papaji. So a group of Western spiritual seekers who came to them, first to Ramana Maharshi and to some of Ramana Maharshi's followers, including Papaji, who was Ramana Maharshi's follower. So they took this teaching. It's basically the very heart of Advaita Vedanta, the essence of Advaita Vedanta. And I am telling you that you are Brahman, not even using the term Brahman, using a term like being or presence or awareness. And then trying to show you in many ways that you are that. And if you begin to get it, then to show you that if you really get it, you will see that all your problems are solved. What about the rest of it? Not necessary. Just sit, listen to me, ask your questions, and try to see what I'm trying to show you. That's it. This is called the direct path or the satsang model. Satsang model. So that has become very popular in some circles, especially here in the United States, especially on the other coast. People here on this coast are not all that sold on this, but in California, many people are very interested in this. So there are some really good teachers, and I do feel many of them, some of them at least, have genuine insights into this, what Advaita teaches.
What about the rest of it? We just read and inquire fourfold qualifications, meditation, devotion, work, all of that, the whole panoply of religion. So some of these direct path teachers, they dismiss it, not necessary. You're wasting your time. Just be enlightened. And so they called it the progressive path. The progressive path said that you in the direct path, this what you are trying to do is a kind of delusion. You're fooling yourself into thinking that you're enlightened. They have gotten names for it, like a spiritual bypassing. You are just overlooking your problems. You have not solved your problems. You're still unhappy. You're still struggling. So many problems are there in life. What are you doing about it? You're just saying that I am enlightened. It doesn't work. If you're honest, you will see nothing has really worked. So that is their criticism. So where do we stand? Where do I stand? Tune in to find out. Okay. Om Shanti 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 Hari Om Tat Sat Shri Ram Krishna Arpanamastu.